Hi, everyone, and welcome to Elevate Your Life on Dr. T TV. I'm Dr. T, and this is the place where emotionally sensitive, highly driven people get the emotional tools that they need to succeed. I've got this outstanding guest with us today that I am so excited to talk to, share with you all, and have us all learn a lot from him. But first, I'm going to read his bio as a way of introducing him. This is Mr. Rory Douglas, and Rory began his career as a music manager, overseeing the careers of well known talent, including Bobby Brown and Backstreet's Dave Hollister, to name just a few. I'm already excited. With the changes to the industry brought on by streaming music services, he shifted his focus to financial education and literacy. With over 25 years experience, his goal is to give people the tools to find financial freedom. Douglas is also a highly accomplished motivational speaker who enjoys speaking to everyone from high school students to tech company executives across the country. And he speaks to them on how they can find financial independence and fulfillment in their life. He recently collaborated with fellow entrepreneurs on the book Cracking the Rich Code, which gives readers tools on how to win in the current economy. He has also made a name for himself as a high performance life coach. And as Master Douglas, as a master coach, Douglas is very passionate about helping people find their purpose in life. Using life coaching combined with principles of spiritual psychology, he encourages them to ponder and answer the questions: who am I? What do I want? And how do I get it? He uses the answers to help them out of limitation and into fulfillment. Rory, it is wonderful to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. T, for having me. I am so happy and excited to be here with you this present moment.
Well, this is great. You are up to so much. You have been doing so many amazing things. And I know that our audience can really relate to, our audience being emotionally sensitive people who are also highly driven. They're also very creative people. And, these sides of all of us, these aspects of all of us that that are creative, but also really want to be in the strategy and using our creativity and strategy to really create fulfillment in our life. I'm really excited to hear, first and foremost, what has gone on in your journey that really brought you to be at this place today.
Well, I'll start off by saying this. I love the fact of your title when you said emotional driven. It's really funny because in business, in most cases, they try to take the emotions out of it.
I know.
And I think that the world has become desensitized because of a lack of emotions. I think that it is extremely important that you show your emotions. So just want to start off with that to let you know I think that you're right. Your fingers on the post. But where I am right now in life, it's somewhat like a Southern dish. You ever heard of gumbo?
Of course, yeah.
So gumbo, it's like putting a lot of things together and coming up with where I am right now. I mean, I've been through a lot of things in life, a lot of different emotions, a lot of different ventures, all those different types of things. But I think that that's what life is all about. It's all about never losses, just lessons. And I think that it's extremely important that you stay highly motivated, that you stay highly encouraged. So therefore, during the times that are so-called losses, you take them as lessons and not losses. So here I am. I'm just like some gumbo. I got so many different emotions I've done, and I'm just a very, very highly motivated and exciting guy.
I love it. So I really want everybody, this is a quotable, right? Like, instead of losses, these are lessons. And yes. I'm really thinking about whether there are really ever any losses whatsoever, or if we're always looking at what's gained and where we are gaining ground and what curriculum we just came through or what curriculum we're in the middle of, where we're gaining. Because it's always true. But, Rory, how is it that you came to be able to see things that way and really understand them and then be bringing that into into the way that you coach people and lead them?
It's funny because by nature, I always tell people winning is a habit and losing is a habit. And you have to know exactly, Dr. T, why you win, and you also have to know why you lose. Yeah. But in life, we always lean to one side. We want to win, we want to win, we want to win, and we're afraid of losing. Yeah. And to me, I think fear is just false emotions that appear to be real. And fear is real, but we need that to create that balance in our lives. So I think that through my setbacks, my trials and tribulations, you have a choice. You can either learn from those things or you can flee and run away from those things. And I think most people tend to flee and run away from their bad experiences, which in some cases are really a setback is a setup for a comeback. So when you're losing, you're really gaining, but most people don't understand that. It's I always say this. I say God never presses us. He just stretches us to widen our territory. So yes. It feels like you're being squeezed. So God never squeezes us, but he's really stretching you. So you can take it as a squeeze or a stretch. So I tend to look at it as a stretch.
This is fabulous, Rory. This is fabulous. So this is the expansion that's happening, right? Yeah. And this is so fascinating because this is why I love being an emotional scientist and really studying what it is that's actually going on versus what it seems like or even may feel like is happening. So that's really interesting. So when you're speaking about the squeezing, I'm getting the sense that this is where people feel the pressure rather than feel, like you're saying, like when you actually are doing a stretch, we've all stretched before. There's something going on while you're stretching so that yourself adapts to the stretch and then expands into it so it can now be normative for you to be there, right?
Exactly. It's like, you'll never be a butterfly if you don't stay in that cocoon for a little while. So yeah. I really feel like that's what I love, the fact of what you do. I mean, I basically looked into what you do. Yeah. I just love that because in today's society, things are so cookie cutter. Things are so set up just as the norm. We don't want to talk about the setbacks, the disappointments. We only want to talk about winning, and we only show in media all of the great things, but we don't show the things that somewhat are ugly. But you need both things, and I think that's what it's all about. So, like you said, when you stretch, you're extending those bones and those muscles, and after a while, you feel even better. So, I think in today's society, people are afraid to be stretched. They're afraid to be stretched, but actually, that's what you want. Well, you want to be stretched. You want to be pressed.
Think about that.
Stress is good. Some stress is good also too.
I get this, right. This is fabulous. I'm so fired up right now because this is what everybody, think about this. We're all seeking to grow, right? Everybody, there's wherever the person is, and then we are just built in. I feel like God is like trying to get us to go in the direction, and then we want to go. But then as you're going, you're like putting yourself into some new piece of purpose or project. I think people can feel like, the squeeze is on when really the stretch is on, and you're the one. It's like we don't realize how powerful we are. We are the ones that are setting it up. Like, I wish this was happening. I want that to be happening. And then as it's happening, it's like, I'm getting the squeeze rather than I'm really stretching. And the way we've all, I think most everybody who's watching this has done some form of stretching themselves. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll tell you something about the stretch. One thing about the stretch is that when you are reluctant to stretch, you can easily be controlled.
Yes. Key.
So, the world tends to, they don't want people to actually stretch because you have to think about it in today's society. A school teacher can barely make a living.
Yeah.
But entertainers make millions. And we know education is really the key to everything. So I think a lot of people are denied being stretched. Their dreams are are being pretty much robbed and taken away from them. That's why I always tell people,
Yeah.
your dreams are not a figment of your imagination, just showing you glimpses of your future. But every child, every human being has to have the ability to be stretched.
This is so important, everyone. Really, I really invite everybody to really internalize this and what's going on, because we're basically here to start. We're here to expand throughout our lifetime. We're here to evolve. And then I really want to tie this in with what you were saying, Rory, about, people not we're really conditioned to only talk about what looks easy, or to make it look easy. And this is why, years ago, I knew as a little kid, but I knew a long time ago in my career, early corporate career as a trainer, and then when I was going into psychology to combine these things, I knew that it was always the emotional capacity that was making the difference in everything. And whether or not somebody was reacting and in the negative and in the struggle, or whether or not they were like, I'm staying with this intention, and even if there's an obstacle or whatever, I've got myself on the track, and I am going to keep going and going. And which as you said, otherwise it looks like a setback, and really you're just in progress, right? And so when I made what at the time felt like a courageous choice, which didn't feel courageous to me, but people were telling me, you don't want to be the person that talks about emotions, because that makes people uncomfortable. And I was like, well, that's the exact reason we need to talk about them, is that this mystery around them, and everyone wants to run away and not talk about them and not deal with them. And so I was like, we need to make the emotions, they're amazing. They fuel us. And I thought to myself, it is a rebranding of emotions, because there are power, and it can't look like just the same old, like, I'm going to deal with my problems. It's got to be exciting to grow emotionally, and everything that's going to come from that. So I feel like that would be something that we are probably aligned with, Rory.
Yes, definitely. It's funny when you mention emotions. When you let your emotions show, it's a declaration, and also it could be a cry for help.
Yeah.
And the great thing is that letting your emotions show, actually, it helps people to get involved. I think that suicide rates wouldn't be as high as it was if we, when I was a kid, I was told my father, where men don't cry. Yeah. We come up that way, but where did he get that from? He got that from his father. So it's a lot of generational curses that's going on. But the main common denominator, Dr. T, is it's really control. Even women have been denied so many different things from the very beginning, and because of control. So if you're going to really, really ever take the bull by the horns in your life, you got to be ready to show your emotions. So I turned that whole scenario around. I take the energy out of it. Real men cry. That's what I said. And I hold that dear to my heart, because crying shows the emotions. It doesn't show weaknesses. And I think that that's what's happening in today's society. Education and systems are put in place to control people. But we're at a time right now in humanity, and where we have internet, the whole world is connected. So right now, this is the time that you got to let your emotions roam. You got to show people who you really are, because that's what people connect to when it's all said and done. People don't buy your books, they buy you. And you can't show you if you're not showing the emotions.
Well, this is so cool, because, thinking about when you're talking about the habit, winning and losing, I think we both understand that, there's conditioning, and the conditioning is multi-generational conditioning as far back as it goes, for everything, right? For everything. This is what is the issue with all of our problems, all of the issues with diversity, all of the racial issues, is that there is conditioning. And the way that I see this is, it has so much momentum from thousands of years, right? So much momentum, fear and confusion, and seeing differences, and being afraid, and a threat, and I'm being threatened, so I'm attacking. And all of these habits, all of these emotional, they're conditioning, your emotional habits, avoiding something rather than going, oh, there's a thing, I'm gonna go to my next moment and incrementally go forward. There is so much conditioning that if people were to connect with what they're really feeling and share it and understand it, that's how you shift that conditioning, is to cry it out, is to bring it forth and say, I've been in that pain of that conditioning, and I'm breaking through it right now because I'm going for what my next contribution is, or something like that.
I couldn't agree with you more.
It does. It's really so Rory, in thinking about I really am fascinated in your journey, how you were working with some of the really talented, most creative entertainers, and all that, I imagine when you're a talent manager, right? You're just like everyone, you're an emotions manager. Right. So, right. Like I always tell all these people that talk to me, I'm a financial advisor, real estate, and really everybody ends at the end of the day ends up being an emotions advisor because so many people don't know how to deal with their emotions. So, what were some of the things that you learned that you really pulled forward today in the work that you do from working with these creative, talented artists that you did?
I think that it all basically started in my beginning. I always tell people that when I was a young child, I was most likely not to succeed in school because I got kicked out of every elementary school and every junior high school. I was labeled a troubled youth. And the reason I was labeled a troubled youth is because I suffered from something that's called dyslexia. I read things backwards. My mom, basically, being a mom that my mom is my mentor, but working three jobs. My mom basically, she thought everything was okay with me because I had a pretty large family. And what I would do is when I listened to this teacher, I would hear everything. I could recite every word. I mean, I had like a genius IQ. I knew everything. And the teacher, they recognized that. But when the test time came or when open book came, I would create some type of disruption in the class so I can get thrown off the class. And I had a few teachers would say, why are you doing this? You're such a gifted young man. Why are you acting the way you're acting? And me being afraid of my disability, I ran from it. So I always tell people today, I say, you can have a disability, but you don't have to be disabled. But what I learned was when I was in those hallways with those other kids who were ditching class or had problems and issues, I got a chance to see both sides. So what it showed me was it showed me a lot of dysfunction, but it also showed me exactly a lot of early experiences in life. Now, one day, my mom and myself was about to go to an appointment, and she was in the car rushing to get there. She was late. And she said, hey, read those instructions. And I couldn't read them. And she demanded, read those instructions. I need to know where I'm going. And I tried to read those instructions, and I was reading them backwards. That's when my mom recognized something was going on. So she took me to the counselor, and the counselors, they tested me and found out that that's what I was suffering with. And once I received help, went back to school and got straight A's. So I think that like dealing with the emotions again, dealing with at an early age, dyslexia, that challenge, I had to do more things than the average child. The average child could sit in the class, listen to the assignment, articulate it, and write it down. I could listen, I can articulate it, but I couldn't write it down. So I ran from my disability. So I learned early on in life to not run from fear, to not run from your disability, to not run from your capacity, to not run from your dreams, your goals, your gifts. And I've taken that same philosophy all through my life, which means I think that is power in service. And even when I got into the music business, I started off pretty much as an intern, serving coffee. And I took that same thing that I did as a young man, I use it to this very, very day. I think opportunity is stronger than money. So the bottom line is I'm always searching for opportunity. So when I was in the music business, start off as an intern, bringing coffee. But when I brought coffee to certain execs, which are very, very prominent people today, if I threw those names out, you'd be like, wow, you brought coffee. Yes. But the bottom line is, I brought coffee to those individuals, but I brought coffee, not only brought coffee, I also brought my personality and my service and my commitment to them. And they recognized that. And what happened was, I got the opportunity to go on a tour. So I went on a tour, and that tour that I went on was my moment. When I went on that tour, I was committed to serve. And when I tell you I served, I went beyond duty to doing certain different things. And then I got to pretty much pegged as a name on that tour as the go-to guy. That's the go-to guy. You tell him to do it, he can get it done. And after the tour, one of the individuals who were a very known singer basically said, hey, we would love for you to go on tour with us. And I went on tour with them, and that's when it was all born. It was all born. My music venture was born. My career was born in the entertainment industry. And I ended up going from one artist to a lot of major artists to starting my own label and management company. And it was a very, very incredible ride, a lot of achievements, a lot of awards. And that's how it all started.
Wow. Well, Roy, I mean, this is major, and I really want everybody to get a sense of, there's so many important points here, because when you're talking about you're in school, you know, and this can be for anybody, you're in school, you're at your job, and you recognize that something's going on that is having you avoid, right? This is really important. Sometimes it might be avoiding by getting up out of your cubicle and going and chit-chatting at the water cooler instead of being finishing your project or whatever it is. And so many people, especially emotionally sensitive people, can relate to this avoidance because things feel overwhelming. And they might feel overwhelming for a number of issues, even if it's just you can be really overstimulated. But when I think about this example of you in school, Rory, that, you know, is so important because, you know, here you were, and all of these aspects of you were working, right? They were working really well, but there was some part of you that wasn't operating at optimal level. And that what happens, I feel like, I've seen this in so many clients, then for so many people, that one thing can now become their identity. And then they go through their life and they all often don't even know they have that issue until much later. But that issue was making them avoid or disrupt things or think they weren't good at things. And then they create this identity, and then this identity keeps conditioning them throughout their life, when in reality, there was something going on that just needed attention. And this is my major, I was going to say argument, but it's not an argument. It's my major invitation for everybody that when you recognize that something isn't working optimally for you or about you, that's the moment to lean into it and go, what's going on here, right? What is happening? I want some expertise to see what is this issue, so we can just advance it and add it to all the other aspects of you that are already working really well.
Wow, you are so right. You know, you really took us down that road. But I'll tell you this, picture in your mind an apple. And I always tell people there's never perfection. But you take a beautiful apple and you got one little mark on there. Yeah. Life to focus on that one little mark. And we miss all of the beauty. And it's the same in our lives. You know, you may have a little mark, you may have a blemish, you may have a vice, you may have a setback, but you can't focus on that. You got to focus on what you're going to and not through. Yeah. And I think that's what happens to most people. What they do is they focus on that little mark and they miss all of the value.
This is so major, everyone. This apple, I'm never going to forget that example. Because even when you go to pick an apple at the store, like that poor apple doesn't even get picked because
exactly. Right. You're looking at the apple, and subconsciously you're trying to see if you see a mark.
Yeah, rather than like, look how much of the apple is.
Look how beautiful this apple is. Yeah. Why are you looking for just one little mark? And we do the same thing in our lives.
We do that to people.
It's the same way when you meet people. You're looking for the mark. You're looking for what's bad.
Yeah.
And that right there sets you up for failure. That's why you got to really, really look for the good in all things. That's what it's all about.
It's a paradigm shift, because this is where, you know, in the emotional training work that we do with clients and all of our different programs, where every session, everybody knows this, that it's ever been a coach or a client here, every session starts with 3 things that are already working really well. We don't start a session about what's wrong this week. It's all about what's improving, what are you celebrating, what's incrementally growing, and then we build from there. Because otherwise, you think you're trying to go, from here for here, and you really are here and needing to just, move more toward where you're going.
Exactly. And I think most people, we never get the proper start. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
As kids, our parents may have something that they want us to do. It could be living vicariously through them.
Yeah.
I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be a lawyer. And a lot of times, dealing with emotions, I don't want to disappoint mom. I don't want to disappoint dad. So I'm going to college for this. And you've actually missed your identity right there, because you wasn't really allowed to show your true emotions. So you get to the point in life where you really don't know who you are and whose you are. And I think that in order to really help people, you got to find out what their passion is. Because I believe that your passion will always lead you to your purpose. But most people, they miss their passion and never find their purpose.
Right. And then it turns out into some like pathology where people feel depressed or anxious, and then
there it is.
We end up
unfulfilled beauty, unfulfilled gift. You're right.
And you're doing what I used to call doing a performance of myself, right? I'm in somebody's script and I'm following the script that was given, which is like not that script didn't even work for the people behind me, by the way, that came before me. I'm following the script. And yet really this is which was a turning point for me, where I said, even though I was really effective in the corporate world, I knew I had this amazing turning point one day where I heard myself on a conference call talking to this group of managers I was leading. And even though by all intents and purposes, the whole thing, everybody would say, I want that job, I want that life. And I just knew it's some things that you are a liar right now. You are speaking words that are productive for this team, but you are living a lie in this moment. And this is what you're meant to be doing. And the shift wasn't like that major, because it was all about shifting into becoming a clinician who could teach performance and support clinical problems and performance problems, which I feel are all the same thing. And to be willing to make that shift and follow that truth, which was really like being willing to look at my own emotions, because that's the part, sometimes the hardest part for people.
Right. You're totally right.
It's often the hardest part. And I think about I just really want to tie this in, because your story of where your mom sees this, there's this moment, she gets it. Okay, there's essentially a processing thing going on that needs to be addressed. And I think of all the times that people have come to us as clients, they're 40 years old, and along the way, these issues were there, but their family, and I had an example like this in my family, where they don't want to look at something, and so the kid goes all the way through life with this struggle. Then they become sometimes all the way through like depression, anxiety, addiction. And then we go through and we do neuropsychological testing to test for these things like dyslexia and auditory processing disorder, any type of learning disorder. And then all of a sudden the answers are there, all because because we decided it was okay to look and figure it out. And no, you're not a bad person. You're actually amazing, but we want to optimize the situation. And it's really something, because a lot of people feel like, they don't want to feel like this, but it's like, you left me hanging, mom and dad, because there was stuff there. And that's the conditioning of being afraid. The mom, the dad, the kid, everybody's afraid. And wherever you are in your life, afraid to look and go right into leaning into what's going on with me, what works, and what do I want to work better.
Exactly. And what you said in the very beginning, it all starts with that and it leads with that emotion.
It really does. It really does. And this is, I want people to be so excited about that, because Rory, I'm positive, right? When you were a kid and you felt that, like, even though you were getting busted to the principal's office, something in you felt stress that then created the ability to avoid that stress. But you felt that and just made, didn't know how to identify that, because that conversation is not one that everybody's having. where we even teach our kids or get emotional education from the beginning.
Exactly. And that's my superpower now. From going through those emotions, that's my superpower right now for going through those emotions. And also, I've been able to identify others who are suffering in that area because of going through those emotions. That's the reason why I firmly believe that there's never losses, there's only lessons. And I always tell people, praise progress, but not perfection.
Praise progress. Another quotable: praise progress, not perfection. Right, because then you're just putting attention onto progress, and what you put attention on goes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it grows. Now, Rory, what was the big change? Like, what brought about the shift into this priority, which is so important, of financial education and literacy? And I preface this by saying I also firmly believe that I believe that most problems are emotional problems in disguise, and that especially our relationship with finances and money is rooted in our inability as a society, or our growing priority to finally start looking at the emotions that are driving dysfunction, including especially financial dysfunction. So, what brought about this priority for you to make that shift there?
Yes. Once again, it's funny. It's funny because the way I look at life is is about winning, and it's also about losing. We lose hair, we lose our strength, and things are growing and things are dying at the same time. So what happened with me is, by having all that success in the music business, I wasn't prepared when it came down to financial education, financial literacy. I didn't understand money. And I always tell people in life, wherever you're immature at, that's where you'll suffer at. If you're immature in your finances, you'll suffer financially. If you're immature in your relationships, you'll suffer relations. Yeah. When you get matured in that area, you don't really have to suffer because you grow in that area. Yeah. And for me, I accumulated and accomplished a lot of things in a little amount of time. And one of my goals were to start my own management company. And at that time, I had a good friend of mine. God bless his soul, he's not here anymore. It's a mentor of mine. His name was Joseph Gelman. Mm-hmm. He basically saw that gift inside of me, and he asked me. He said, "Hey, listen, why don't you start your own company?" And I told Joseph, once again, showing those emotions, I would love to start my own company, but I have the furthest idea of how to do it. Yeah. And he basically said, "Hey, you know what? I'll show you how to do it. I'll help you. Let's do it together." And that's when my music company was born. I partnered with he was a lawyer, entertainment lawyer. I partnered with him when we started my own company. But the thing is that I got a financial lesson during that transition. Mm-hmm. I was accomplishing a lot of success, but I also was creating a lot of mess because I didn't understand things financially. So in my business, everything that I asked my business partner for, he actually gave it to me because we were making revenue. He gave me this, gave me that. We traveled, we did certain different things. But at the end of the year, when we were doing the financials, he would write me a check. He wrote me a check and gave me the check. And I'm like, what is this? I think I'm going to get this big check. Dr. T, I think I'm going to get this big check. And I got this literally check. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then he would basically say, oh, wow. Remember those shirts we bought on them? And remember the tour we went on? And everything was just there to the T. It was so organized. And I looked at that and I was like, well, I'm really not that organized. And then, on top of that, the IRS hit me up because of taxes.
Oh, shit.
So you end up making a bunch of money and then you end up owing a bunch of money. So that was very, very frustrating. And then I went back to that moment again. It went back to my superpower, my disability, on how I was disenfranchised, didn't understand what was going on, allowed my fear to rob me. And I said to myself, you know what? I will never get in a position like this again. I'm going to study and read every book I can about finance, about business. And I read things. I mean, I tell you, I read so many books. And I'm the type of person, when I read something, it becomes a part of me. So I read, and I just kept going. And then the music industry shifted. It went from a CD business
Right.
to a download business. And by going from a download business, initially the CDs would cost about $11. And I had a deal with a major music company where we would, music label, where we would get a 50% deal. So I would get half of that $11, which was a lot of money at that time.
Yeah.
So you're going from virtually $6 down to 99 cents. So I began to lose money, lose revenue. So I had to get out in time. So I ended up selling my music company to a very known music label. And to this very, very day, I get residuals and royalties, which is great. But I got out in time. But during that transition, a time of heartache and pain, that's when I found my purpose. My purpose was to not only build people, build myself. And I fell in love with finance. So I made a decision that, you know what? I'm going to get involved with finance. I'm going to become a starch entrepreneur. And I'm going to get involved with finance. And I always tell people, if you're truly an entrepreneur, you got to learn how to turn your 9 to 5 into your 5 to 9, which means you have to be willing on working at least 16 hours a day if you want to be a true entrepreneur. Because if not, it's a word I made up. You are one entrepreneur.
You're a entrepreneur. Yeah.
So the bottom line is that once I found out that finance was my passion, I basically joined a few firms. And every time I joined a firm, I would just caterpillar move up. But it all started the same way from the beginning, which means if I had a job working at a retail store, I would start at the bottom, pushing baskets, and then I'll become the manager. So the same analysis followed me all my life. So when I got into the financial industry, just like the music industry, started at the bottom serving and went from the bottom to the top. So finance became my passion. I'm living my purpose. And right now, I have so much work to do because, and listen to this, Dr. T, the average American is 1 to 2 paychecks away from being homeless.
Wow.
1 out of 3 Americans in debt. And the average American family cannot even handle a $400 emergency. We live in one of the richest countries in the world, but yet people are suffering financially. And it goes back to what you said in the very, very beginning. It's emotions.
It's emotions. Yeah. Rory, wow. I mean, what a journey. And this is how the journey goes at times, right? To really refine it into what that more refined purpose that you're doing. And, you know, I there's so many things here because just thinking, first of all, I was laughing with you because that sounds like a really painful time that you went through, that you really turned it into something. You talk about, you take the investment of an experience where you're looking at that paycheck. And this is what I really recognize about you and I relate to. It's like, I'm going to invest this experience into my next return, right?
And I'll tell you this for your listeners. I always tell people, what hurt you is going to help you.
It's absolutely the case because it's awakening you. And I also just got to say, you are so funny, Rory, when you're describing going around. You're flying.
I'm a child of it. I mean, I'm a child.
I love it. You're like, I'm flying here, I'm flying there. And then you're like, wah with this paycheck. And I was like, okay, I know that was not a good moment, but thanks for the entertainment, because that's what I love, is to look at the amusement of being a person and kind of go like, okay, something's not flowing the way I wanted to here. So what comes next? And really that sense of, okay, this is what I got out of this curriculum. This is the return on that investment that you made. And then recognizing that if somebody as smart as you and as tenacious and talented could be so successful on the front end, but then not have the back end, essentially leaky, as I call it, right? And just not know. I always think about this. This is the part you were talking about, that we want these outcomes, but we're not completely, I always think of it as we've got to have our emotions wrapped around all of the outcomes, which includes the profits, which includes all of the pieces lining up, because we're so powerful that if we actually just give the attention to the whole vision will come true. But if we only give our attention to a part of the vision, there'll be parts of it where you're like, wait a minute, that didn't even calculate out the way that I wanted it to. But it's not all that, it's not all that complicated. It's that You have to condition yourself to have all the parts of your vision
Right,
in
right,
view,
right.
right?
And I think it's that way, Dr. T, because of this. You know, it's funny. I pretty much give this analysis. Everything starts with a seed.
Okay.
A seed. We come into the world as a seed. And I think that our gifts are so big that the creator has to put it in the seed.
Ah.
And the seed will not mature and germinate until you're ready. So our gifts are so big that it has to be in a seed. And I think in life, we make a mistake because we start looking at the whole picture instead of looking at the small thing. That's why I always tell people,
Got it.
break things down to the common denominator. If you look at the whole, it's going to create anxiety. If you look at the whole, you're going to think, I can't do it. I can't get over it. But when you break it down to a common denominator, then you can realize you can get over any hurdle. So that's what it's all about. It's all about realizing that all of us have 24 hours in a day. But what you do in that day counts. So I'm a stickler of breaking things down to the common denominator. If I tell somebody right now, you want to be a millionaire? And they'll say, yes, I want to be a millionaire. How much money do you need to become a millionaire a day?
Right.
If you don't know what you need a day, then you're never going to be able to have that. So break it down. When you break it down, you'll realize that it's very, very small. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, when the enemy comes in like a flood, it's not really a flood. It's like a flood. So we got to get away from that. How can I say it? We have to get away from that Wizard of Oz theory, where we're allowing these things in life that look big, that are really small, to scare us and rob us of our destiny.
Well, this is so key because, again, thinking about this is what I love about what I think when I think about emotional training, right? It's about changing the paradigm. And I know that's what you're doing with financial training and financial literacy, and is you're changing the paradigm, you're changing the lens and the conditioning through how we see things so that we can actually utilize what is a major, powerful creative force within us, right? That's needing to get put into these certain outcomes and be able to do them and go, great, I got that done. Great, I got that done. And yet the emotional process can be so overwhelming for people. And this is affecting all of their material success, right? It's affecting everything.
Yes.
So
I tell you, I do hundreds of interviews, but this is my most powerful interview.
Oh, I'm so glad.
When I tell you what you're talking about is going to help and free so many people.
Oh.
So I just want you to know, thank you for this.
You're so welcome, Rory. This is so fun for me because, otherwise it makes emotions and how to be successful. It makes it so mysterious when all the points that we're really aligned on, this is why it's like we want to help people understand it's not only safe to proceed in becoming emotionally literate and financially literate. These things are all related. Because every time I've ever interviewed somebody or for a consultation to be one of our clients, and we go through a list of what it is that's not working first before we look at what they want. And right. This is our part of financial literacy. We're not going to have you stay in denial and not look at what's really happening. So we'll ask people. They'll say, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I've got, I'm drinking. And we start to go into how is this impacting you financially? And a lot of times people don't know right away. They go, I don't think it's impacted me. We start to break it down and go, okay, so where has these emotions impacted you? And invariably, when we start to open up that spreadsheet, if you will, the emotional expense sheet, we call it, you start to see, oh my gosh, I didn't get this promotion, or I didn't go for this job, or I'm a real estate agent and I can't even, get myself to return these phone calls. So we find out anywhere people are saying they're losing anywhere on the low, $5,000 a month, Rory. And some people who have multi-level marketing companies were saying $300,000, I believe more I would be making a month if my emotions weren't getting in the way. And when we extrapolate that out, all the years that's been happening and all the years it could be happening, This is millions of dollars for people to not understand emotional literacy and apply it to financial literacy, which I see as one and the same thing,
Yeah,
right?
I totally agree with you, and I'll tell you this here. That's the reason why, from a financial literacy standpoint, I give people basic finance 101 principles because in life, I think that in order to help someone financially, you really, really got to help them psychologically.
Do.
Because, see, a lot of these things are tied to things that we've learned generational wise. You know, people feel like if they have a home, it's going to make them happy, or they have nice, lavish things, it's going to make them happy. But there's a big difference between wealth and riches. You know, you can have riches, but having riches, you can have money for a lifetime, but not, you can have it for a lunchtime, but not a lifetime.
Yeah. Wow.
Riches. But wealth is something that's ongoing, which means I can live in that one bedroom apartment, but I have a dream, I have a purpose, I got something I'm building, I'm alive, I'm happy, I'm wealthy. So I really want to empower and let people know that you are wealthy, but you got to tap into that wealth. And once you tap into that wealth of knowledge, that wealth of knowing who you are and whose you are, then you start to really, really expand and grow. That's what it's all about. But right now, I'll tell you this, that most of us are set up for failure right from the beginning because we're taught, you know, to go to school, get a good job, get out and get a good education, get out and get a job. And my definition of job, and I have no problems with jobs, but my definition of job is just over broke, which means just over broke. You're only going to make so much. You get my point? So I'm encouraging people not to have a job. This is great that you have a job. I'm encouraging people to live their dream, to live their purpose. Now, if your job is to help people, you live in your purpose. That's great. But the bottom line is you got to learn exactly how to reach your full potential. In other words, right now, I think it's a shame that the average American is 1 to 2 paychecks away from being homeless, and 1 in 3 in debt. And that's the reason why, we wrote the book, Cracking the Rich Code.
That's what I want to know about. Yeah.
It's an international bestseller. And we wrote this book because people don't understand that we're set up from the beginning the wrong way. Like, I'll give you an example. The banks in America on average, Dr. T, give us about minus 1% on average. Inflation is the devaluation of the dollar, less spending power. When the government prints up more money, can account for it. Inflation in America right now is 4.5%. Soon to be more.
You're done. Yeah.
If the bank is giving us minus 1% and inflation is 4.5%, we have to have at least 5% or greater just to beat taxes and inflation. And we're all focusing on taxes when really inflation is the silent killer. Major. So we have to be trained about financial education and financial literacy. So therefore we can turn our financial house around. We can get things in order, but we're taught the wrong way. Some things like compounding interest, the rule of 72. Most people don't even know about the rule of 72. No. People that work in the bank don't know about the rule of 72. So we have to learn basic finance 101 principles. And I think that it's a shame that most of our schools are not giving it to the kids. And that's the reason why I'm so passionate about going to high schools and elementary school, talking to kids. And, those particular engagements are not paid. But no, I really want to go there because I know it starts right from the start. So I want to get into as many elementary, high schools and teach young kids basic finance principles, finance 101 principles, because like you were saying, in terms of the emotions, it goes with you for a lifetime, not a lunchtime. It goes all through your life. So if I can get to a kid early and just deposit that information inside of that kid, you got to look at the kid's eyes when you talk to them. I was recently at El Camino High School in Calabasas talking to the young people. When I tell you those young kids connected so much, it was a great experience. I just love it. I just want to get that information to the young people.
Rory, we're just so aligned in this. I feel like emotions and finance are interrelated to each other. They're one requires the other, right? And also, to your earlier point, even when people become really successful, having worked with lots of uber wealthy people who did not feel successful, by the way, right? Because
Right.
you just described the way that wealth actually feels. And just recognizing even their relationships with emotions and money and all of the ways in which we're taught that what like finances will create happiness rather than your emotions and your dreams, and what you're doing also will create finances. But you need to know the techniques of how everything works. You need to know it about how your emotional system works, but you need to know how your system of yourself. But we need to understand the major system, which the I always think your emotional foundation is number one, because that sets everything up. But the financial foundation is pretty much right there as important, because this is the foundation of how we transact everything in life and how you take care of yourself. I mean, this is and how you create material success from your dreams and how you actually fulfill your potential. And if we don't know the nuts and bolts of how things work, then to your point, somebody could be, this is really big for everyone. You could be thinking that making $1 million is so incredibly difficult that you may never do it. But when you understood what you were needing to make per week or per day, that starts to change the way that you operate. And it's just an incredible, that's it. Financial literacy, Rory, to me feels like an emotional training process as well.
Yeah, it's emotional training. And I'll tell you another thing also, too. There's a big difference between information and information.
Okay.
Big difference. Uh, we've been actually taught how to get into formation, get in line. We're not really getting information, because true information, it unlocks you, right? However, I think that in the world, there's so many things, Dr. T, that actually weigh us down. All of the emotional baggage, all of the financial baggage. When we think about marriages breaking up over money, prison system filled in America because breaking up and over crime and things of that sort. It's funny because I donate time sometimes talking to at-risk youth. And I sit down and I talk to young people and I say, well, how did you end up in this juvenile hall? Why did you end up here? Why did you snatch that purse? Or why did you break into that store? And when I break it down to the common denominator, they were trying to do it so therefore they can get things. Yeah. Things that they thought that would identify them. So if you look at the prisons in other countries, people are being locked up for protesting for a cause or fighting for injustice. Yeah. And when you shift the lens in America, prisons are filled up because people are trying to get things. And I think that we are so bogged down with so much negativity, so much confusion, that sometimes we need a mental enema.
Yes.
We got to get the stuff out of us. Yeah. You just got to clear your mind. I always tell people, get your shift together. I'm not cursing.
Get your shift together.
Yes. We got to clear our minds. And that's what it's all about. Once you clear your mind and you begin to work on who you are and identify what's inside of you, you find your passion, then you're going to find your purpose, and then people have a purpose-driven life. Yeah. And I just love the fact that there's individuals like you out here talking to people, because it's highly needed. We don't have a money problem in America. We have a literacy problem. Right. It's not a money problem. I'll give you an example. It's funny because last year, I'll give you an example, just the African-American community. Last year in the African-American community, they made enough money, the community as a whole, the African-American race made enough money to buy NBC, ABC, and CBS in just one fiscal year. In one fiscal year. Wow. Well, if you look at other communities, the dollar bill turns, in the Jewish community, you can learn a lot from the Jewish community. Mm-hmm. The dollar bill turns 9 times. It goes around 9 times in 9 different hands because of financial literacy, education. Right. And then also, too, in the Asian community, about 8 times. Mm. And in America, in terms of Hispanic community, anywhere between 2 to 3 times.
Okay.
But Americans, in most cases, not one time. Not one time. Yet we live in one of the richest nations in the world. It doesn't turn not one time. And that's the reason why financial literacy is needed. And what I've seen over the years, dealing with what you're dealing with the emotional piece, everything comes down to control.
It does. It absolutely does. And if you know how things work and you become conditioned for it, then I always think about this. It's either other people are creating your reality for you, or you're creating your reality that you want to create and that you want to bring to the world. And this is why this stuff is so important, because right, otherwise we're kind of operating without the handbook. We're missing the handbook. And it's really interesting how people continue to do that just because that's what's happened all the generations before. It's like there's like an opt out, and it really is a very purposeful life when you don't have a B plan. And I always say, I'm quoted by many of my clients as saying, one of the things I said to them that really inspired them is, I said, I am who I am and I call it a job. And that's because got all of the information that I receive that feels like I'm receiving from God, the connection to my purpose and what is supposed to come through me. And that's a beautiful thing, not to have a B plan or a job, really. And to have that purpose and to flow all the way with it, even if you're feeling like you're going down the rapids sometimes, because the next piece of it is like, oh, it's my next expansion.
Exactly.
It's like there's never, I've been an entrepreneur a long time and I'm from a long line of entrepreneurs. We're not, there's no like, if this doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. This is living the purpose.
Exactly.
I don't even have that recognition. So then things can flow. And this is why, I really, and I know no matter what, there's a peace knowing I will continue to serve, to use the words, I will just continue to show up and serve and follow that purpose and be just as served by serving other people. I'm just receiving everything with that. And so for all of you, I want to really invite you. We've got Rory's book, which is, Rory, will you show it again, which is Cracking the Rich Code.
It's with Jim Britt, 20 years life coach, Kevin Harrington from ABC, Shark Tank, and then also Tony Robbins. Yeah. Everybody knows who he is. We all collaborated together and we put together a book that's called Cracking the Rich Code, and it's currently an Amazon International bestseller.
Cool. This is really important, everyone. Yeah. And then, Rory, before I ask you my last question of our interview, what is the ways in which you want people to get a hold of you, and anything they should know about the benefits of getting to work with you or anything like that, so that they can follow along?
Well, I have a passion to help people pursue their purpose in the areas of finance. I specialize in retirement strategies, helping young people get scholarships and grants instead of debts and loans. Also, you can go to rorydouglas.net. I'll say that again, rorydouglas.net. And you can see exactly what I'm doing out there and where I'm going to be. And that's exactly who I am. And I approve that message. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
No fake news here, everybody. Okay, so last question, which is a question I ask of everybody that's come on the show. And I'm collecting these just beautiful collection of answers and messages. So, Rory, if this was for whatever reason, the last moment that you were able to give a very important message, the message of your life that you're here to serve up to humanity and go forward into the generations, people would say, Rory taught me that, and they're implementing that in their lives. What would that message be?
That message would be, you are the change that you want to be in life. You are that change. And I personally believe that we don't have as much time as we think we do. So you want to make sure that you take the time that you have and you want to maximize that time. And as I said earlier, God never squeezes us. Yeah. He just stretches us to widen our territory. Don't be afraid of the squeeze, because it's really a stretch. And also, every knock is a boost.
Say that last part again. Say it again.
Every knock is a boost.
Every knock is a boost. Oh my gosh, I feel so inspired. And another financial lesson right there, Roy, that the time, that knowing our time and valuing it and fully living it is the big financial literacy, right? I mean,
Exactly.
this is the finances, right? Our time is the finances. So, Rory, thank you so much for being with us, and I know the audience is gaining so much from you, serving it up today and collaborating with me. It has been delightful and inspiring, and I've learned so much that I'm going to be applying to my life, and I'm already going like I need to upgrade my financial literacy, because I just get inspired to expand it, like whatever it is. It's exciting to always make it better. So
And you're not going to have any problem too much with finance because, it's really about currency. And
it
this
is.
conversation is a currency
It
conversation, which means
is.
we are in changing value. And that's what it's all about. So,
But I'm really excited to know about even more about all of the world of finance, because it's just, it's a vast it's level of expertise that is really, I just feel that much more inspired for it. So not only do I love emotional science, but financial science, I feel like it's just a whole another realm of expansion for me.
exactly. And one other thing,
Yeah.
I do free financial literacy workshops, and they can go to aquafinancialcenter.com.
Oh, I'm glad we got that.
Financialcenter.com, free financial literacy workshops that I actually give for the general public.
Okay, aquafinancialcenter.com.
Center.com.
Okay. And so to all of you emotionally sensitive people, I really look forward to you taking all that Rory and I have shared with you today, and allowing it to become you and applying it to your life. And until then, until next time, we'll see you.
Take care.